As someone who enjoys DIY projects, making things, and modding consoles and controllers, 3D printers have become critical to my workflow, and they're used on almost every mod or project I do. While often you, the viewer, doesn't always see it in action, I'm constantly running off 3D prints for everything from molding and casting to PCB design, and sometimes just to make cool stuff that are published by other creators. So you can imagine my excitement when on May 21st of 2020, Elegoo announced the new Elegoo Saturn, which is a medium form factor resin MSLA 3D printer, which they claim will revolutionize the industry. I was very lucky and caught wind of the printer prior to the official announcement, and Elegoo offered to send me a beta unit for review and feedback. So in this video, let's take a look at the Elegoo Saturn Beta unit, provide Elegoo some feedback on the unit, and see if my suggestions ended up making it into the final production version. So as mentioned in the intro, this is a beta unit, which is meant for test purposes and to provide feedback to Elegoo for the final design. The actual retail unit is coming out later this year, and Elegoo is taking pre-orders starting in June of 2020. So while I unbox this thing, I wanted to provide a bit of background on Elegoo and the Saturn. Elegoo has a great reputation among the 3D printing community for their Elegoo Mars, which was revealed all the way back in 2017, and subsequently followed up with the Elegoo Mars Pro in 2019. Both the Mars and Mars Pro are small desktop MSLA resin 3D printers. However, the trend with these MSLA printers has been to go bigger. And I don't mean slightly bigger, I mean significantly bigger. And that is where the Saturn delivers. It has a massive 18.8 by 11.5 by 20 centimeter build volume. That build volume is over 240% larger than that of the Mars. Here's the build plate compared to my Epax X1, which has a similar build volume to that of the Mars. As you can see, it's just about 2.5 times larger. Some other notable features of the beta unit, and I just want to emphasize that this is only the beta unit, are the following. The screen resolution is 2560 by 1600, and the print speed is 20 millimeters per hour, and the Z-axis accuracy is 0.00125 millimeters. Now, keep this in mind as we get to the feedback section a little bit later on. Taking a look at this thing out of the box, the initial impressions are really good. I really like the all-metal construction of the printer, adjustable feet to keep the unit level, and awesome VAT, which has feet to keep the FET film off of your table. Another thing I noticed right away is the dual linear guide rail on the Z-axis. So with the Saturn fully unboxed, the first thing that needs to be done is leveling. Leveling this printer was extremely simple to do. As a matter of fact, I got it leveled perfectly in my first try with zero issues. It seems funny to include a sheet of leveling cardstock, but actually it worked out really great and it was super easy to do. So with the printer leveled, first thing I did was kick off a print of the Rook. Now, I'm not sure what settings the printer was configured for on that file. However, I figured it was best to use some of this Elegoo gray resin. I've had great results with this resin in the past, so I figured it was the best place to start. As you can see, getting the printer to do the test print was as simple as pressing a few buttons, and off we go. Well, first print's in the books, and it turned out great. Time to step up our games and do some much larger prints. Push the 2K screen with some more detailed prints to see how it would perform. Part of me was skeptical that a 2K screen, which has significantly lower pixel density compared to the smaller printers, could yield the same or even better results. So I chose to print the Metal Slug SV001 tank from Nauseum. This is a great model that comes with supports already on it, so it's just as simple as loading into G2Box and exporting the sliced file. As far as print settings go, I opted not to modify them and just use the standard settings in G2Box. I was glad I made this decision as the print turned out great with tons of detail. Next, I wanted to print something that used the whole build plate. So I printed some of the awesome GameCube controller display stands from Zizinzo. I actually reached out to Dean and we made some small tweaks to the model to make it ideal for printing on this printer with zero supports necessary. So two of these stands fit perfectly on the build plate and they printed pretty good. I was a little nervous at one point, and here's the reason why. Just take a listen to this. That sound is the suction from the prints getting pulled off the FEP film. In the end, neither of these turned out absolutely perfect, but I'm not sure that it's fully the machine's fault, as the models were jammed to the max size of the build plate, and I don't think Chitubox sliced the files correctly, as there seems to be some layers missing. However, I do find it interesting that it almost looks like there was some resin that might have delaminated from the corner. Sorry, I know it's more of an FDM term, but I'm not really sure how else to explain it. Either way, this is the only print that I seem to have any trouble with. At this point, I swapped out the resin from gray to white. Now, I really wanted to push the Z-axis of the machine, and I ended up choosing this amazing Samus statue from Printed Obsession. I printed this at 18 centimeters tall, or about 90% of the total Z build area. This was a massive print, taking over 16 hours to complete, but the end result is pretty stunning. And while the white makes it a little bit hard to capture on camera, you're just going to have to trust me when I say this looks absolutely incredible. I'll need to do a little bit of sanding to remove some of the nubs and supports, but once this thing is painted, it's going to look fantastic. After validating the max build area on the Z side, I turned my attention to some really small miniatures, and I chose some of these Pikachu minis to print from Patrick Fanart. I scaled these way down and they turned out really great with nice accuracy even in a miniature size. For the last test print, I wanted to print something that needed dimensional accuracy. So I went with this N64 region-free card slot from Greg over at Laser Bear. And sure enough, it fit absolutely perfectly into the N64 and worked exactly as it should. So with the machine fully tested and spending about 100 hours of printing, let's get into some of my thoughts on the printer. From a build construction standpoint, I really like the all-metal design. It feels extremely sturdy and built for extended periods of use. I like the modifications made to really beef up the Z-axis, and specifically the dual Z-axis guide rails. I also like the quality of the prints I'm getting from the 2K screen. I was skeptical and concerned about it, but based upon the models I chose to print, they turned out pretty well. However, there are 3 things that I think need to be improved upon, in my opinion, and here's the feedback that I gave to Elegoo. First is the USB port. It should be moved to either the right side of the unit or to the front left of the unit. As it currently sits, it's suitable for left-handed individuals only. While I never actually hit the USB thumb drive, I think relocating it would be really nice. Second, and this is pretty minor, I would like to see the on-off rocker switch move to the right side of the unit as well. This will make it significantly easier to turn the unit on or off. Third, and this is kind of a big one, I think they need to reconsider how the LCD is currently designed. While the printer makes amazing quality prints, I take exception to how the LCD is currently constructed for this application. If we look at a typical LCD, it is built in very simple terms as follows. You'll have a light source at the back, which would be LEDs. Next is the liquid crystal, and finally you have a polarizer on top. Now, this is exactly how the LCD is made on this unit. However, the top layer is inherently where the problem lies. You see, a polarizer is typically made from plastic, which if resin and UV light touches, you'll not be able to get it off the polarizer, and you'll have to replace the polarizer or the whole screen. What I would like to see is some sort of tempered glass top on the LCD screen, so if any resin spills onto it and hardens, it can easily be scraped away. You can see I actually ran into this exact issue on my Beta unit, where I ran into a small spot of resin that cured on my polarizer. So as mentioned in the intro, recently Elegoo has formally announced the release of the Saturn, and we have a much better idea if they took my feedback or not. So let's get into it. As for point number 1, the USB port, they have moved it to the ideal location. For point number 2, the power rocker, it remains on the back of the unit, but I don't really think that's that big of a deal, and I can live with it. Finally, for point 3, we don't exactly know how the LCD was constructed, but I'm willing to bet they have accounted for my suggestion in the final unit, as it's likely mine was just missing the tempered glass top, as it was just a Beta unit. However, we know that the production unit's going to have a 4K mono screen, which is a massive upgrade over the Beta unit I tested. I would expect the final version to print in higher quality with faster print times and significantly increase the longevity of the print screen. As for the release date and price point, pre-orders will open on June 6, 2020, with the first 200 units coming in at $300 per unit plus the cost to ship. The next 800 units are coming in at $400 per unit plus the cost of shipping. Bear in mind the cost to ship these is going to be expensive because the boxes were very heavy and quite large. Depending on where you live, it's going to range between $100 and $150 to ship each unit. Having said that, if you're looking at between $400 and $550 all in, to me that's a fantastic deal and it makes this pretty much a no-brainer pickup. Some other companies are selling 4K monoscreen upgrade kits for their printers that has an all-in cost greater than what they're charging for the Saturn. Needless to say, I'm hoping to score one of these units when they go up for pre-sale on June 6th. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you check out this video where I put a resin 3D printer to good use and create this awesome custom amiibo.